All right, so this would be sort of an unboxing video, but since it's a rocket, it's a bit of an unbagging video. So let's just have a look at what's in our bag. For our rockets, we've got a bunch of stickers that you may or may not use, depending on if you want to. You've got your balsa wood that's got the fins that are cut out in it. You can see the 3 fins in there. The rest of that wood will get disposed of. You've got 2 sets of directions in here. You've got 1 set in English. This is the English set. You can tell it's English because 1, it's in English, and 2, you've got measurements in inches. It's got the metric equivalent too, and so that one's in English. And then you've got another set of directions that is in another language, and that looks like it's in German. So you've got a German set of directions. Those you will not need, unless you prefer to do the directions in German, and then good luck to you. But this set of directions you don't need, so I will get rid of that. What else do we have here? We have the main body of our rocket. That's that tube. We have this smaller white tube that will house the engine. So we have that. We have this bag that has our parachute. And very importantly, inside this bag is this little white straw. This is the launch lug that will get glued onto the side of the rocket that will guide it up the launch rod when we launch. You've also got the shock cord in here. You've got the engine mount, which you will need to get out pretty early on. So usually what I recommend, so you don't lose the lug or the parachute or the rubber band together, is I usually recommend just pushing the plastic through there and then just pulling that out separately. So you have that, but everything else is still contained in the bag, because you cannot lose this straw. If you lose this straw, you can't launch the rocket. That's critical. So that stuff, right off the bat, we're gonna stick in our Ziploc bag that you got your rocket in, so we don't lose it. I'll throw that in there for now. And you've also got a nose cone with some plastic flashing in there that we'll have to cut out. And you have this green ring that is the spacer ring that fits inside this tube, and the white tube fits inside that one, and that's how we'll glue it all together so that it's all, held in place the way it needs to be. So that's what's in the bag. And now we can look at step 1 in the directions and see what it says. See, the first page just gives you a breakdown of everything you get in the kit, which I just went over. So step 1 says to get your fins out, and we're gonna break them out of the wood holding that it's in, and we're gonna sand them down a little bit to make them smooth. So they have you sanding it down first. I usually don't do that. What I'll do is I'll take my balsa wood. I'm gonna hang on to my stickers. They're gonna go inside, because I might use them. Just very carefully, I just twist that a little bit and break that out. And I gently break that out. You definitely don't want to break the fins themselves. And then I just pop this piece out very gently. So all of this spare wood, we won't need anymore. We can get rid of that. Now we've just got our 3 fins. Now, you cannot glue these onto the rocket like this. You can see all the little jagged pieces of wood sticking off of there. So what we do is we take our sandpaper and we lay it on a table. Now, be sure you can do this somewhere where you can clean up, because this is gonna make a little bit of a mess. You're gonna have some sawdust come out of this, and you wanna have all 3 fins lined up the same way. Now, each fin has a tiny little hole in it, like this, and so you just put those 3 holes together and line them up. So you have all 3 fins the same way, and then you hold them together, and you put the sandpaper on your table, and you just gently rub it till it's smooth and flat, and that burr is gone. There's still a little bit there, so we're gonna hit it a little bit more, just to smooth that out, just like that. And we'll do this side. Nice and smooth. We'll get this side. Nice and smooth. See, doing it this way, having them all like pinched together, will keep them So they're all sanded the same amount. So we're gonna sand that off. And that's nice and smooth now. Now, one thing you can do, and this is optional, you can, if you want, now I like my fins to be kind of pointy. Some people like to round this point off because the fins will go on like that. That side will get glued and the little circle will be at the bottom of the rocket hanging off the side like that. Some people like to round that off. If you're so inclined, you can just pull as you're sanding and just kind of turn it as you pull back, and that will round that edge off. And again, if you have them all pinched together nice and tight, that will round them all the same. They'll all be identical. And if you're OCD like me, that's a good thing. I can still feel a little bit of a burr on this one. That'll bother me. So I'm just gonna hit that a little bit more. And now your fins are ready to go. And that is step one. And next we will move on to step two. Okay, now step two. In step two, we're gonna assemble the engine mount. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get that little white straw out, a little white tube out. That's this one. And we're gonna take our sandpaper. Now, these cardboard tubes, they are sealed with a little wax coating on them because they have no idea how long this bag is gonna sit on the shelf, and if there's any moisture in the bag, that could maybe damage the cardboard, weaken it over time, whatever. So there's a very thin wax coating on it, which is why it looks kind of shiny. So you're gonna wanna take your sandpaper and very lightly, very gently, just kind of rough it up a little bit, all the way around. I'm trying to be very gentle. I don't wanna deform the cardboard. It doesn't take a lot of pressure to do this. Just, you know, basically the weight of my hand is enough to rough this up. And just make it feel a little scratchy and look a little dull. That's when you know you got that wax coating off. Yeah, that doesn't feel as smooth anymore. This will allow the glue to stick to it. The glue will not stick to the wax coating very well, and things will pop off, or they'll take a long time to dry on there, and they won't be adhesed very well. So that's pretty good. Now you can see the shine is kind of knocked off it too. You can see the dust on my fingers. So once you have that done with your sandpaper, then the directions say you're gonna make 3 little marks. You're gonna make one that's 3/8 of an inch up, 1 inch up, and then 2.5 inches up. Now, I'm a little disappointed with Estes because in the old days, right on the edge of the directions here, they used to print a ruler and used to just be able to lay this on the page and make those marks. So now we're gonna have to use rulers in class, and I should have enough for each class that everybody can just grab one, use it, and then put it back on my desk, and then I'll sanitize it, you know, for COVID. So what you'll do is lay the tube on the straw like that. And when you want to do 3/8, so when you look at the ruler, the way it's split up there's the inch, 1/2 inch, and then you have the 1/4 inches, and then 1/8 of an inch is right there. So 3/8 is right there. And then of course 1 inch, and then 2.5. Okay, so here we go. So we're gonna make our lines. So 3/8 is, there's 1/8, 2/8 is 1/4 of an inch, and then 3/8 is right here. So we're gonna make a line right at about 3/8. Now it doesn't have to be super hyper exact. This first line is just gonna show you how far out it should stick from the rocket. So when we glue the rocket in, when we finally glue this into the rocket, it should stick out about that far. And then the next line is at 1 inch. And then there's one at 2.5 inches, which is right there. And so what these other lines are for, and they don't have to be in a straight line like you'd see mine are like kind of crooked. That's fine. When you put this green tube on, you'll push it over the top and it'll come down to that line. And then that whole thing will go up into the rocket up to that line. So that'll be glued on right there. And then this top mark, that's where we're gonna make a little incision, and this part of the engine hook is gonna go right in there. And then we're gonna put the green tube over it, and then we're gonna put a little glue on it and let that dry. And that's probably most of what we're gonna get done the first day. We might get into step 3 a little bit today, where we make the lines on the rocket, but we'll see how time goes. So what you wanna do after you've made these marks is you wanna bring this up to your teacher. That would be me, of course. And I will make an incision here because I'm not gonna give you guys razor blades to use in class. So I'll make the incision there just like that. And then the tube goes in there, or the engine hook goes in the tube like that, so you can see it sticks out the bottom there. And then very carefully, you want to just kind of rotate this around, get that on there, and slide it down to that 1 inch mark. So it looks like that. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a little bead of glue. Let me grab a glue. Now this is the hard part for most students. They don't get this concept. All you need for this step right now is just a little bit of glue. So I only opened it up a little bit. Open it up a little bit more, get some glue out. And whoops, see, we're just gonna squeeze a little bit of glue in there. That's probably even too much. Just a little too much on the top and then a little bit on the bottom. And then you could even just take your finger and rub that around like that. And then we're just gonna let that dry. And then you can grab a paper towel from one of the paper towel dispensers, and that's really all the glue you need on there. That'll dry, that'll stick that together, that will not slide. Plus, when we finally get to the step later on where we're gluing this inside of this one, we're gonna put some glue inside this tube, and that's gonna smear on there as well, and that's gonna like double bond it. So all you need is that tiny little bit of glue in there, and that's perfectly fine. And we'll just set that on our desk and let it dry. And that is all you have to do for step 2. One other thing, while that's drying, everything else I put back in the bag. So I've got my fins in there, my nose cone. Now is probably a good time to also have your teacher, while this is drying, have your teacher make some cuts in here to get this flashing out. When they mold these nose cones together, they're in 2 pieces. They're like 2 separate halves. And they squeeze them together, and you end up with some excess plastic that ends up, and this opening needs to be open. This is where we're gonna tie that rubber band and the parachute. This is the part that goes in the rocket. So I just used a razor blade to kind of weaken that, and I'm just gonna try and poke it out with the ruler here. See that come out like that? Pick that out. There we go, and now that's open so that we can put the ropes through there and tie it, and tie the rubber band in there. At the end, that's one of the last steps we'll do. But now the nose cone's good to go, so we'll put that back in the bag, and then we'll put our main body tube back in the bag. You also probably want to get a piece of tape from Mr. Grandy, or whomever your teacher is, if anybody else decides to do this project in the future. And just put a piece of tape on your bag and write your name on it, so you can identify yours the next day. Each table will have its own, each period will have its own table in the lab area for storing their stuff. And when we're gluing the fins on, we'll have something to put the rockets on to stand them up, because obviously when you're letting your fins dry, you don't want to put them back in the bag. The bag's just going to knock the fins off. But for right now, this is, that's a good way to store it. And this is probably already starting to dry up and good enough to just drop in the bag for storage and keep it there until tomorrow.